The Anzacs at Gallipoli. Hell Spit Cemetery at the south end of Anzac Cove. Gabatepe. Gabatepe was the Turkish name for the peninsula south of Anzac Cove. Anzac Cove itself was an unnamed beach, the northern headland of which was called Ari Burnu. It became known as Anzac Cove in the first week after the Anzacs landed there on 25th of April 1915. Kemal Atatürk. Mustafa Kemal. Mustafa Kemal, a Turkish commander, heard of the Anzac landing and launched a counter-attack. Although he had fewer men, his troops were able to hold off the Anzac advance because they knew the land and were better organized. Hanging on. It was a matter of just a disorganized crowd of these fine, brave fellows, not knowing where to go, no one in charge, no orders, no possibility of officers taking command, because they were all scattered in the bush. Tony Fagan, Auckland Infantry Battalion. Anzac Beach. A donkey man, James Henderson, from Kihikihi in the North Island, was one of the donkey men on Gallipoli. Every day he and the more famous James Kirkpatrick Simpson and his donkey Murphy brought wounded soldiers down through Shrapnel Valley to the beach. Both were a familiar sight. A gentle-faced donkey, a bloodied figure slumped on its back, and Simpson alongside. Simpson was killed in May 1915, but Henderson survived the war. This photo of Henderson became the model for the famous painting by the New Zealand artist at Gallipoli, Horace Moore Jones. Canterbury soldiers going into the front line at Quinn's Post. Bombs. The best way to clear an empty trench was with hand grenades or bombs. The Turks had plenty of bombs, mostly the German cricket ball type, but the Anzacs had none, so they made their own out of jam tins filled with nails, bits of exploded shells, barbed wire, scraps of metal, and an explosive charge. A fuse through the top of the tin was lit by a match. A New Zealand sniper using a periscope rifle while his spotter alongside him looks for Turkish soldiers to shoot. Snipers. There were many deadly snipers among the Anzac troops. It is said they were so good they could shoot the left eye out of a fly. They usually worked alone, often in no man's land, stalking Turkish snipers. Anzacs Cove. Men bathe in the sea while working parties stack up boxes of bully beef and biscuits. Rations. On Gallipoli, men lived on bully beef, biscuits, bread, jam, fatty bacon, cheese, tea, and sugar. The bully beef, now known as corned beef, and the cheese melted into an oily mess in the hot conditions. The hard square biscuits were like rock. They were often pounded into porridge or thrown at the Turks, who sometimes threw them straight back. Victoria Cross. Many acts of courage went unnoticed and unrewarded at Gallipoli. Corporal Cyril Bassett was the only New Zealander awarded a Victoria Cross, the highest British decoration for bravery in battle. He received the medal for his action as a signaller, maintaining communications under fire during the battle for Chunuk Bair in August 1915. Holding Chunuk Bair, 8th, 10th of August 1915. Soldiers advancing towards Chunuk Bair, 8th of August 1915. The rifle fire was just intense. It was just a sheet of bullets going over almost at ground level, and our field of fire was a man coming up the hill here, and his head is the first thing that comes into view, and our first targets were heads, and there seemed to be thousands of them, and the targets got bigger as the Turks came up the hill, and by the time they were fully in sight, they were within 20 feet, 6 meters. Harvey Johns, Wellington Infantry Battalion. Lieutenant Colonel William Malone of the Wellington Infantry Battalion, one of the heroes of Chunuk Bair. The battle for Hill 60. There were 43 of us left out of about 150. We had to cross 2 gullies where it was safe to stop for a spell. Then we had to plough through a stretch of scrub, then over open ground going in full view of the Turks, and they did use their artillery, machine guns and rifle fire. However, some of us got there. We had a roll call next morning. 18 of us. Edward Templar, Canterbury Mounted Rifles. Sickness, dysentery, jaundice, enteric fever, typhoid fever, and malaria were some of the sicknesses the men suffered at Gallipoli. During September, there were more New Zealand soldiers on hospital ships and in hospitals in Egypt, Malta, and England than there were fighting on the peninsula. a mounted rifle trooper running forward with a machine gun during the August offensive. I noted the startling transformation of old friends. There was Payne, known at school only a few years before, last seen among the 5th Reinforcements as they marched out of Trentham on 12th of June to the music of regimental bands, now hardly recognisable, his hollow face matching in colour his sun-faded tunic and forage cap. Alexander Aitken, Gallipoli to the Somme. The end. Gallipoli Peninsula was ours any time after the attack in August last, if we had enough men. It's the same old tale. 4 men and a sergeant to do the work of a regiment. Anyway, it fed me up with war, and now I'm warsick and only want to get home. Trooper A.D. Blanks, Auckland Mounted Rifles. The unknown dead at Chunuk Bair. The Anzacs at Gallipoli. Hanging on. It was a matter of just a disorganized crowd of these fine, brave fellows, not knowing where to go, no one in charge, no orders, no possibility of officers taking control, because they were all scattered in the scrub. Tony Fagan, Auckland Infantry Regiment